At the peak of her career, Shelley Duvall was unstoppable, a true Hollywood star. But as soon as she stepped into the role in The Shining, everything began to unravel. What seemed like the role of a lifetime became the start of her deepest struggle, a journey the media never fully revealed. Behind the glamour and lights, there was a darker story, one filled with untold pain that would eventually force her to step away from the world that adored her. To understand what happened to Shelley Duvall, we have to go back to 1980. It was supposed to be a career-defining moment, a role that would cement her place in Hollywood history. Shelley had just gotten a role in The Shining with Stanley Kubrick, a chapter that would forever leave its mark on her. But at the time, she thought it was the best thing to ever happen to her. What should have been her greatest achievement quickly turned into a nightmare. This role in The Shining wasn't just challenging. It pushed Shelley beyond her emotional limits, turning the set into a psychological battleground. The relentless demands, the intense isolation, and the pressure to meet Kubrick's impossibly high standards changed her, leaving scars that lingered long after the cameras stopped rolling. For Shelley, the cost of this role wasn't just sleepless nights or sore muscles. It was a profound toll on her mental well-being, one that marked a turning point in her once bright and promising career. As a matter of fact, the role was the beginning of the end of her career and interest in Hollywood. Stanley Kubrick's reputation as a perfectionist preceded him. But on this set, his methods reached new extremes. Known for pushing his actors to deliver exactly what he envisioned, Kubrick took things to a relentless level with Shelley, transforming the role of Wendy Torrance into a personal trial. The most notorious example is the filming of the bat scene, where a terrified Wendy fends off Jack as she backs up the staircase. This single scene required a staggering 127 takes, more than any other scene Kubrick had ever shot. It wasn't just a test of stamina, it became a grueling emotional marathon. Each take demanded Shelley to summon more hysteria, more genuine terror, until her screams were hoarse, her hands raw and blistered from clutching the bat. Her exhaustion was not an act, it was real, seeping into every aspect of her performance. The real strain was the psychological pressure she endured on set. Stanley Kubrick didn't just push her as a director. He created an atmosphere designed to break her down emotionally. He isolated Shelley, making sure she felt like an outsider, even among the cast and crew. To make matters worse, Kubrick instructed everyone on set to withhold any form of comfort or support from her, believing that if she felt truly alone, it would translate into the vulnerability and desperation he wanted for her character, Wendy Torrance. For Shelley, it meant the line between fiction and reality began to blur. The fear and frustration viewers see in her eyes weren't just part of the act, they were painfully real. Her emotional exhaustion and desperation came through in every take. But it wasn't just because she was playing a part. It was a reflection of the mental strain she was experiencing day after day. In the end, Kubrick got what he wanted. A raw, unforgettable performance that oozed with genuine terror. But for Shelley, the process left deep scars. Those haunting scenes, with Wendy's frantic sobs and trembling hands, aren't just great cinema. They're a window into the profound toll that the film took on her, lingering long after the cameras stopped rolling. Shelley Duvall didn't hold back when she later talked about filming The Shining. She called it excruciating, and you could tell she meant every word. In interviews, she described how the stress got so intense that her hair literally started falling out, and she was constantly on the edge, emotionally drained to the point of breaking. It wasn't just the physical exhaustion, though that was brutal too. It was the feeling of being isolated, like she was carrying the entire weight of the role alone. Kubrick was relentless, always pushing for more, never really satisfied until he had driven her right to the brink. For Shelley, it went far beyond just playing a part. The fear, the desperation, it all became very real. And when the cameras finally stopped, those feelings didn't just vanish into thin air. They stuck with her, like a shadow she couldn't shake. When they wrapped The Shining, Shelley had given a performance that horror fans would remember forever. But it came at a price. She wasn't the same quirky, bright-eyed actress who had charmed audiences in Robert Altman's movies anymore. The whole experience had left a mark on her. A kind of mental fatigue that didn't just go away. Sure, The Shining turned into a horror classic, but for Shelley, it was a painful chapter that made her wonder if the acclaim was worth everything she went through. When The Shining was finally released, it became an instant classic. Audiences and critics alike were captivated by the film's eerie atmosphere and unforgettable performances. But for Shelley Duvall, the acclaim meant little. The experience of making the film had left her mentally and emotionally shattered. The vibrant, quirky actress who had once lit up the screen was now a shadow of her former self. After The Shining, something changed in Shelley. The passion she once had for acting seemed to dim. She wasn't the same bright-eyed star who had charmed audiences in films like Three Women or Popeye. The grueling experience of The Shining had taken its toll, and Shelley began to retreat from Hollywood's high-pressure world. Instead of chasing big roles, she shifted her focus to smaller, more personal projects. She found solace in creating and producing fairy tale theater, a whimsical children's television series that allowed her to reclaim some creative control. The show, which adapted classic fairy tales for the screen, was a far cry from the psychological torment of The Shining. It was lighthearted, imaginative, and most importantly, it was on Shelley's terms. For a while, it seemed like Shelley had found a way to move forward. She continued to act in smaller roles, but the fire that had once driven her was gone. She had seen the darker side of Hollywood, the side that chewed up actors and left them broken. And she wasn't eager to return. As the years went by, Shelley became more and more of a Hollywood ghost. By the 1990s, her appearances in films became rare, and eventually, she disappeared from the public eye altogether. The woman who had once been one of the industry's most promising stars had faded into obscurity. In a world that thrives on constant attention and reinvention, Shelley Duvall did the unthinkable. She walked away. She left the glitz and glamour of Hollywood behind and moved to Texas, seeking peace and distance from the chaos of her former life. It was a far cry from the Hollywood hills, but for Shelley, it was a necessary retreat. But even in Texas, far from the paparazzi and red carpets, Shelley couldn't escape the shadow of her past. As Shelley withdrew from the spotlight, the world began to wonder, what happened to Shelley Duvall? Why had she disappeared so suddenly, and why was she staying so silent? It painted this picture of a woman who was really grappling with the heavy toll that fame had taken on her life. Some folks speculated it was her mental health that took a hit after everything she went through, especially while filming The Shining. And then there were those wild stories from neighbors claiming they spotted her living a reclusive life in Texas. It's almost like she became this enigmatic figure, and everyone was left wondering what was really going on with her. Financial difficulties were another big theory floating around about Shelley Duvall. Hollywood can be a really cruel place. It often leaves its stars high and dry once the spotlight dims. So, a lot of people speculated that after stepping away from acting, Shelley might have faced some money troubles. It made sense when you thought about a retreat to Texas. Living away from the high-priced lifestyle of Los Angeles seemed to fit the narrative of someone trying to simplify life amidst some financial strain. There were reports from neighbors and acquaintances, stories of Shelley living in near isolation, rarely interacting with others. Some claimed that she had become paranoid, fearful of being recognized. Others described her as a tragic figure, a woman who had once been on top of the world, but had fallen into obscurity. The media's silence on Shelley's disappearance only fueled the rumors. Was she truly struggling, or had she simply chosen to live a quieter life, away from the prying eyes of the public? The lack of clear answers only deepened the mystery, and Shelley's story became a source of endless speculation. But soon enough, the most amazing thing happened. In 2016, after years of silence, Shelley Duvall made a surprising and controversial reappearance during a TV interview on Dr. Phil, a moment that would spark widespread discussion and concern. Fans who had long wondered about her whereabouts were eager to see her again. But what they witnessed was both shocking and heartbreaking. During the interview, Shelley appeared disoriented and visibly unwell, struggling to articulate her thoughts and appearing confused at times. Her once vibrant spirit seemed dulled, and viewers could sense that something was deeply wrong. The fallout from the interview was immediate. Critics were quick to label it as exploitative, questioning whether it was ethical for a major television show to air such a vulnerable moment. Many felt that the interview took advantage of Shelley's fragile state, rather than providing genuine help. It was hard to watch someone who had once graced the big screen with her presence reduced to a shell of her former self. And the discomfort among viewers was palpable. Reactions varied widely. Some fans expressed deep concern for her well-being, flooding social media with messages of support and love. They remembered her not just for her iconic roles, but for the unique energy she brought to every character. Former co-stars and Hollywood insiders also weighed in, with some sharing fond memories of working with her, emphasizing the talent that had once captivated audiences worldwide. Others condemned the entertainment industry for abandoning her, calling for greater awareness of mental health issues among actors. This moment reignited interest in Shelley's story, leading to a flurry of discussions about her life, career, and the challenges she faced. Documentaries and articles revisited her rise to fame, her struggles with mental health, and the intense pressures she experienced, particularly during and after her role in The Shining. It became clear that while Shelley Duvall had re-entered the public eye, the journey to reclaiming her narrative was far from straightforward. The interview served as a painful reminder of the toll that fame can take on individuals, especially those who face the darker side of the industry. For many, it was a rallying cry to protect those in vulnerable positions and to recognize the humanity behind the celebrity facade.